So members, you're welcome to this lecture where we're looking at practices in education, planning and management. It is also very central for you to study institutional management and governance. So in our previous lecture, we focused on the principal's role, and the principal as in a Ugandan setting is a head teacher. The word principal in the Ugandan setting is used to mean a head of an institute, because there are classifications of naming, what we call nomenclature in Uganda. So principal is for institutes, then colleges, and then instructors for institutes and colleges, and tutors. They are used that side, but in schools, which are secondary schools and primary schools, they use the word head teacher instead of principal. And then the teachers, the name teacher is used to mean the one who does teaching. So we looked at our previous lecture. We saw the principal's political role, the principal's economic role, a principal's social role, and a principal's technological role. And in this lecture, we are going to further look at the principal's environmental role. So the principal as an environmental creator and an environmental manager. First, in environmental roles of a principal, we have internal environment and also the external natural environment. The external. For this case, the external environment, we are looking at the external environment as the natural environment. So within the institution, that's what we are calling the internal. If it is within the school, then it is internal, or within that education institution. So the internal environment has intra-school, what we call intra-school, within the school. But you can also have environment within the school. Yes. The environment within the school. External environment is natural environment outside school. Yes. We've said that in environmental roles of a principal, we focus on two, the internal roles, which are within the school, but also the external roles or the external environment, which is outside the school. But mainly we are focusing on, when we go outside the school, we are looking at the natural environment. So, but within the school, we look at the natural environment, but also the emotional environment. Emotional environment. Yes. Emotional environment. So, when you talk about emotions, it is actually emotions of the people within the school. So that is why we're looking at two aspects within the school: the emotional environment and also the natural environment. Emotional environment within the school, we look at the environment which is happening in the class, in classroom environment. many times when people are looking at classroom environment, they look at teaching aids displayed. So those teaching aids, are they displayed? How is the school? Is the class clean? But the emotional environment, you may find that learners are feeling so low. Hmm? They feel so inferior. That's an emotional environment. You find they are on tension all the time. It's also natural. So that's an emotional environment. And there is fear in the school, or fear of one of the members of the school, or even the head himself. That is an emotional environment that has been created. So here we see that the the principal has to look at the mode in which that mood in which learners are, the staff, and also uh, other internal stakeholders who may be inside the school. How are they? So there are some schools where you find that those teachers are working simply because they have no alternatives. They don't have anywhere else to go, but they are keeping around the school. That is an environment that has been created either by administrators, where the principal is responsible, or the motivation is not there. So that is in internal emotional environment. But also they have the internal natural environment. In the internal natural environment, you're looking at the environment of the school in like 8 aspects. We can have one of the aspects is light. Is light. Is there light? Is it sufficient? Then is air. Is air really conducive? There are places where you go and they are stinking, but that's where people are living. Or they are dusty. When wind blows, it is just dust. Is there water? That's also a natural resource we are considering in the natural environment within the what? Within the school. Then land. There are some places where we find that land is so small to the extent that there is congestion and all those. The principle is concerned. Then greenery or plants, which include trees, grass. It is vital to have the school having natural shelters, which are not dangerous again, like trees, which trees could be fruit trees, shelter trees, and aesthetic trees. We use the word aesthetic to mean beauty. Aesthetic trees. Then the other side of greenery, where you see grass or beauty plants. There are some schools where you go and the school is just there. Yes. No beauty plants. No, the trees are stunted. They are struggling to live. So the place is like bushy. There are some places you go and you feel like you should sit there for a while. That's an environment of plants. Then also management of animals. which could be like rats, hmm, rodents, cockroaches, the bed bugs. Hmm? You've seen some schools where bed bugs are. Someone was telling me that he had to invest 2 million shillings to yes. One of their members here, I think he has left, Mr. Samuel. Yes, the school has bed bugs. Mm. So those the school admin the principal is concerned with those we classify them under animals because they are insects under insecta animalia. Hmm? They are also animals. So here in my presentation, I'm calling them animals to generalize that one has got to be very careful in your administration. Even you administer the animals. Hmm? So hmm, even when you have cows, you don't need to walk on the school compound where the cows are not, but they are what refuse is there. The, the security dogs, the security dog has beaten the student. Hmm? That's a case. As you are teaching, the pig passes. the, the, because one of the staff or the teacher is putting. so, so those are mm, so those those are some of the things. So 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 members, let us add on. There are many incidences to discuss over that. You've seen schools where the snakes are. The manager has got to be aware. Should be those possibility areas that here there is a possibility of having snakes. There are possibilities. So let us take an action. They should be foreseen before. Then they are also being careful about forces and energy. Forces. How do we be careful about forces and energy? You should know that when wind blows, it creates a force which can off-roof a weak infrastructure, a weak house. When there is a stone embedded on the roof over what? Over class. One day it might be windy or and it rolls down and hits someone in the head. There are schools where the jackfruit at one time falls off and hits somebody. Yes, is heavy, yeah. So being careful about the effect of forces on the resources available is very key. So we advise that administrators at least plant some trees, but careful of the danger. They are weak rooted trees. They have weak roots and they can be easily blown to the ground by wind. So there are some trees which are recommended for even what? Wolves. Mm. Mm. Then enhance good greenery, have good greenery, and also let us have beauty when we go to your school as the principal. If there is dust, we can find remedies. Did Mr. say Katamaka? Oh, the compound. What did you do with it? You paved it. Eh, but paving everywhere is also not good for the environment. Mm. Okay. Mm. Mm. So that is with the internal environment, but also works with external. Be concerned with people in the community. You can have community programs that promote good environment practices. You can plant trees in the community. You can advise some schools. You see they are making some briquettes people can buy so that they reduce cutting down trees. We've had instances where they were giving a projection that July is going to be it's not going to be global warming, but it will be global boiling. That was the UN projection. That is, July because of the high carbon emissions in the atmosphere. Mm. So the principal should be also concerned with the external environment. When it comes to like air, in air there passes sound. So noise of the school to the community. There's also noise from the community back to the school. That one you have got to be informed. Then we're looking at the principal's legal environment, that the principal's legal role. So it is the principal's role to follow procedures and processes required by an education governing body. Yeah, the principal. It is the principal's role to follow procedures and processes required by the education governing body. Education governing body in Uganda is the Ministry of Education. In some countries, they have already a ministry. Most countries have ministries, governing councils of education. So There are already processes and procedures that are recommended for a head teacher or a principal to exhibit. If the principal does not use them, then even the superintendent and other staff will not consider them as the implementable procedures. Then the principal maintains the legal records. Those are records. Others call them documents. Documents. For example, for schools that are registered as companies, operating under companies, they need to have the articles of association, memorandum of association, banked in a document bank, which is safe. You've heard of articles of association, memorandum of association, certificate of incorporation, mm, not given a certificate. Then those which are not operating as companies, they have certificates of registration. Those are sole proprietorship education institutions. Certificate of incorporation is used. Incorporation, you incorporate a company. Registration, you register an individual organization like sole proprietorship business. Then trade license. Those ones come later. We are looking at the records also.
What do you need as your defense?
Legal records.
When you are dragged to court.
Yes. Those are trade license of that year. And also uh, a compilation of those of the previous years on file. Then registration certificates from Ministry of Education. In Uganda here, you register the school as a company or as an individual or business with a certificate of registration. Then you go and register it with the ministry of to get a school with operating license.
It's something that I
Mm.
have never seen, I've never come across a legal document in public schools or government schools. For example, if it is a UPD school, there is no any document. Sometimes they ask, what shows that this is a UPD school? Yes, I wanted to reconnect my school at school. What they asked me such a document.
Yes.
But it is not there. And the land is one that is in the land, that is indicated that it is a UPD school.
So usually those documents are with the proprietors. These documents are usually in custody of the proprietors. But you remember those historical schools, by history of education, schools emerged without legal documents.
Most especially those ones that started under church.
Yes, the government just took on their governance, their operations, but they had already existed by their own authorization.
Churches, community schools,
Mm.
mosques.
Mm. So if it is a UNEP assessment numbers, okay, UNEP numbers, sitting center numbers, then there are also some documents. These days, these documents are shareable in soft copy. You can save them on an account. Those years they would keep them with lawyers or banks. Then handling returns. You people, you have heard of returns. Returns of employees. For government institutions, you file returns. How do you do it, Mr. Seka? You file returns of, of workers. Sorry?
It's a monthly requirement, but what is it called?
Hmm. Yes.
And some of the bid as well.
So employee returns, you got to report to the governing body. How many employees do you have? Which ones are in service that month?
The board of governors,
So, to their ministry.
the ministry, it says expected to be done by not as important, not effectively. For us, we go to
Mandatory at the school. Mhm. Others have what they call students' returns. Also indicate how many students are in the school that month, have been in the school that month. And then, so it continues like that. Then there are also returns filed for the purpose of taxes. There are returns which are called tax returns. Members who are in private schools, so in government schools, you may not be experiencing it, but those in private schools, we file returns of pay as you earn each month. If a school is registered with VAT, you also file a VAT return that month. Or if the school has withheld taxes, you also file withholding tax returns. And if there are claims, you can also make those claims. If the year ends, you also file the end of year income tax return. If you don't do it, you are not complying with the tax requirements and you are penalized. Each return current in Uganda, each return you fail to submit or to file on time, they usually give you, if the month has ended, they give you 15 days within the next month to have filed. If you don't, it is 20,000 shillings per return not filed. And then they can even add assessments, which they call additional assessments, penalties for not filing. Then there are also social security returns, NSSF returns. That works for private private schools.
even government,
Those who are not on payroll, yes. Uh-huh. They are not on a government payroll, but they are employed by a government school. So they are under the school management committee or the board of governors, paid by the school. Okay, so those ones you should also file those returns. And the principal should be aware that those have got to be done, though the principal can delegate that to the finance department or the bursar, but he still is concerned. Then produces policies and their manuals. In some institutions, we have the policy manuals, the human resource policy manual, finance, yes, management manual. Uh-huh. It's a package. The policy manuals are what we are calling the manuals. Usually, they are called policy manuals. So, those manuals are laid down consistent with the laws of the country. You can modify, add, and become more elaborate, but they should not deviate from the acts of parliament of the country in which the school is, and also consistent with the constitution of the state. If you set policies which deviate from that, in court of law, you are challenged and you may even face penalties. Then keep abreast of changes in curriculum. Keep abreast. Okay, be affluent. Be updated and in footsteps with changes in curriculum, national policies, and societal regulations. So if curriculum changes, or when that curriculum has changed and the school remains unadjusting, the school can face clashes with authorities. They want they are expecting some changes in your teaching, but they are not there. Then there are also national policies that keep on affecting either infrastructure. There are times when the buildings were falling in Kampala, and there are laws which were passed to make sure they regulate infrastructure. So there are some sizes of bars that they want at the foundation and also in the what? In the pillars of those institutions. If you don't use them, then you are against the national policies. Then be aware of laws crucial to the field of education, such as Education Act. Be aware of the laws which are central in the field of education. And such as in Uganda, we have the Education Act, that is primary, pre-primary, primary, and post-primary Act of 2008. Yes. For universities, there is the Universities and Other Tertiary Institutions Act. And by the way, the course you're doing, you even can administer any institution, provided it's an education institution. Yes. Then the Employment Act, because you are human resource manager as well. The Employment Act, another law. The Children's Act is called the Children's Act. Uganda has what it is not a law, but it is a guideline called the parenting guideline. I shared the copy called the parenting guideline because the teachers are also viewed as players in the parenting of the learner. So they need to know how to parent using the guideline. but also the principal is the is the supreme parent. Hmm? Yes, the head of the parents. Then we'll know how to help the community in raising up the child as a whole. That is the parenting guideline. The other is find legal support for cases against the institution. Yes, or seek legal support. Yes, seek legal support for cases against the institution. There are those cases which are against the institution, and there are also those cases where the institution is against other institutions or individuals. Here, the principal is advised to actually do what? To seek legal support because the principal is not a legal specialist. You don't know how they file a case in courts of law or to provide support evidence, but someone else has. Hmm? Yes. So other crucial things you may find out in addition to this is the attribute of land documentation and their custody, where to keep them, which is very key in the, and then the code of conduct, which we can look at later. But when there are issues about code of conduct, remember they are not legally binding. So we have classified them here under ethical rules. Ethical. One of the rules we are looking at ethical. One of the ethical rules of the principle is to maintain confidentiality of sensitive data about the school. Confidential data of maintain confidentiality of sensitive data about the school and stakeholders. For example, do you display a payroll on the notice board? But students' attendance you display. So confidentiality or, or whether one of the teachers has conceived or that's not a matter of the assembly. The teachers' files and all that, teachers' academic performance, and usually you have a chart where you put teachers' codes, those registration numbers, and then their names. You've included their academic diploma or bachelor.
Yes, that one it is displayed in the office. These loan officers who move in the schools, they use that information to deduct teachers' salary without their consent.
They use that information.
Yes, they used it one time in the school where I was. Without you signing? Yes. How? They even go ahead and deduct your money. When you are not even aware. They connect with those teachers with this they put a code on your salary when you are not even when you have never got alone. I have seen teachers. You just claim one day
Hmm. Because they have all your particulars, so signature can be created.
And that money goes to. It is that financial statement those premier credit. When they are not even yellow.
So it may mean maybe you're revealing much more than if the codes were the only ones displayed and the list that has the names that those codes belong to, possibly that would not happen. But I think people are finding all points of weaknesses to take advantage of fleecing the population. Then drives the principle under ethical rules, drives the code of conduct and etiquette. Drives. So the principle is like a driver. The teacher's code of conduct.
The principle is overworked, they should pay more money.
The principal's role is diverse. That's why the principal has to delegate some of the what? But is still responsible. You delegate some of the tasks to departments and to different hierarchies. Yes. You don't delegate and sit back. So the code of conduct regulating relationship between teachers and learners, regulating dressing code, language, and so because the teacher is viewed as a living textbook. Yes, people look at the teacher and learn, even when it is not classroom time. They listen to the teacher in other conversation and learn. So if teachers' involvement, they learn. So
many teachers, they are against the teachers' code of conduct. They engage themselves with the students. Then the younger teachers to give them jobs. It is because I'm generally know. Some of the teachers also.
So you are concerned with those issues as a principal. You are concerned.
No, it is some principles go against the teachers' code of conduct. And they can't blame the teachers.
That's why they are higher authorities, again responsible for the principal.
We have
Then
teachers sleeping with the students, the other teachers.
Then is also concerned with orderliness and time management. Yes. And time management. So all those schedules, the principal is aware and actually participates. Then handles complex issues with an investigative perspective other than bias.
Complex issues.
With an investigative perspective, investigative perspective is that you do not conclude until you have found out the truth. So you don't.
Case of a teacher encroaching another teacher's wife. And the other one went and reported the edit. Finally, the one who encroached. Because now they say this is a Christian school. When it was investigated and cleared, if it wasn't a Christian school, I don't know if it's of the school. Others they say Liverpool. But now this one.
So the processes of handling issues investigatively, there is what we call micro-private, micro-private. Micro-private is one-on-one in a private and inquire about what is happening without going to the public. Then after micro, there is mean private. You involve a mean private. Mean what? Bus. Someone is saying mean skirt. Okay. Meaning at mean level, you involve other, but few selected. Then macro private, that is now within. Macro private, you involve more. You could even be in a staff meeting over that issue.
Like you involve the administration team.
Yes, administrative team.
Few individuals.
Yes. Few. Micro is between the two. Then macro with many others who may not be even administrators. It is still private because it has not gone to outside the what? Macro private. Large but still within the school. Then public. Some can go public. You've heard in the newspapers where a company disclaims that so and so is no longer a member of this institution. Whoever deals with him or her does it at his or her own risk. That is now you've gone public. Then we have the principles, religious and cultural roles. One of those roles are eliminate segregation and discrimination in systems. Eliminate segregation and discrimination in systems. You know that segregation and discrimination is a cultural thing, or some people can even take it to be a religious issue. Segregation and discrimination. Embraces religious lines and creates a community awareness of the religious inclination of the institution. Embraces religious lines. You see that now this you embrace religious lines and create a community awareness of the religious inclinations of the institution. If there are some religious inclinations.
And involve the community.
Yes, involved and creates a community awareness of the religious inclinations of the institution. So if the institution is Catholic, for example, let the community be aware. Otherwise, the child will go back and singing, Maria. Then the parent is like, what? What are those things?
2 weeks ago, a certain parent came to our school. They now said that from a quarter past noon, they have to go for a rosary. Parent came wanting the child. When he was coming towards the school, he saw that the children were somewhere where we always sit. He decided to come directly there. The parent went and the teacher went and faced him, requested for the child, they called him the child, and the child, they are Muslims. When he received the child, just near me where I was seated, he asked the child, now even you a Muslim, you recite the rosary. While going with the child just laughed and she had the rosary.
In the neck?
Yes.
Hey. But if the community is aware of what you do, your religious inclinations. I used to be in a Catholic school in my advanced level, but it was a must to be in the church. So, but they declared it that any student who comes should go to church, whether Muslim or Pentecostal or any other. So, then embrace inclusivity without jeopardizing the core principles. Embrace inclusivity. That's a role of embracing inclusivity without jeopardizing the core principles and core values of the institution. So inclusivity is you remove the aspect of with here it only men, not women. The core principles and core values. So inclusivity is allow everyone, but let your principles also be emphasized and observed.
Now at school, we have all, like, when it comes to denominations, we usually have it like every third Wednesday of a month. Then when it comes to Sunday, we usually have the mass after a fortnight, then the service. Then the Muslims, there is a sheikh who comes every Wednesday for their practices and they go for Juma prayers. Then when we are praying for the candidates, if this year it is Reverend Father who came, the next year it has to be like Imam. Then the following year it has to be a pastor from the Catholic community. No, it's a private.
It's non-denominational.
Amafina is not there.
Okay. So, and even inclusive education, where you include learners with special needs, other than mainstreaming them. So you include them in the lessons. You find that we realized that there was a need for schools to have sign language as you teach people the English language as one of the national languages, sign languages, so that schools can actually accommodate those who cannot hear but can see. Those are inclusive schools where even the lame received. So we have promote national values and national heritage in culture. National values and national heritage are key, such as the national anthems or the anthem. In the Ugandan setting now, we have the Uganda anthem, East African anthem. You have the Buganda anthem, the even Nyoro and other kingdom anthems.
Excuse me, is there any order of singing those? Of course.
Yes.
Yes. Which one comes first? In the morning, when you're opening the school, you open with the national anthem.
Then East Africa.
East African,
Then culture.
maybe kingdom, then the school. But when you are closing vice versa, you begin with the smallest.
As it is done in an occasion.
The anthem closes the school.
Mm.
The national anthem.
As it is done in an occasion. Occasion they start with national, East Africa, Then a close of the event, they start with Uganda, East Africa,
And then the national anthem.
Wait.
Mm. So they have to be, those have got to be emphasized. Then also the motto, these learners have got to know the motto of the country, and also that of the institution. And those of East Africa, Afrika Mashariki.
The African anthem is also out.
So then the
I'll put on the platform the tune.
then we also have the flags. Flags. Yes.
What is the statement?
National, the flags. There can be a national flag. There are even emblems. Correct emblems. Even emblems. Some schools you even find that they pin the president on the walls so that people know that that is the president of the country. And it is a requirement. Mm. Okay. It is.
for us in schools, which are the bishop of that area and the archbishop. And when we are also in the same area, Kabaka must be there.
So he's saying the king, of the region, if it is denominational, the bishop, the archbishop. So Mr. Buiso has the Chabazinga. Then national vision and the national vision should also be there. A national vision and and the core values of the nation. It's only that you may not be aware of them, but they are there. Then embrace essentials of cultural inclinations. You embrace those essential elements. This one, we are placing it as essential because essentials in cultural inclinations of the community. Those essentials that are there in the cultural inclinations of the community.
The school has certificates goes down.
Okay. So you. Then recognize the cultural belongings of stakeholders. And so that one is that the principle recognizes the cultural belongingness of stakeholders. Not belongings. Belongings are as items. It is belongingness.
The stakeholders.
Yes, of stakeholders, and be conscious of their handling. In a speech, of their handling in speech, actions, food, and others. You see the stakeholders? The moment you find that the stakeholders have some cultural inclinations, then your speech should be sensitive. You remember when we were communicating recently, and we said, okay, one of the students said, I think that administrator is blind or something. Was it was very sensitive. Yes. So one of our colleagues was have one eyed, is one eyed, and the speech showed that he could not manage.
And the man defended.
That is lack of self-esteem.
No.
In our tribe, we have a saying that which says, never point. No, must have a good side. You can have one eye, but with a good side.
Even when one does not have two eyes, can have insight.
Who am I communicating?
What disability is that person is possessing? And then when you point out,
But you point it off as good. You may be there, but not good.
Look at her.
Yes. So that you be sensitive in the speeches and the actions, then also all issues, including food. You get it, food.
I got a problem. I can give you an instance. At my school, we had a private teacher, and that private teacher was like more or less a head teacher. But when I came, I got reduced on these powers. So in the due course, the teacher hated me that I've come to do what? To disrupt his what? So he told those people, the parents, because they were supporting him, they wanted him so much. My deputy stood up and said, even if you transfer our children, this is a government school. The school will still stand.
transferred them.
They transferred the
We
children.
remained with only 3 candidates in P7.
You thought that even a government school can stand without children.
Can stand without children. She gave instances of other schools which had the little population. They took the 93. 93 students. 93. Followed the boy where he had to go to teach.
So yeah.
When you transfer to a new school, private, still government.
People demand respect.
Yes, because of that statement you already mentioned.
How did those students perform from them?
They failed.
Yeah, they failed, but they expressed their what? Their belief. They believe in being respected, and so the statement was full of disrespect. So
Just a single statement.
it wasn't a principled statement. It wasn't qualifying to be a principled statement. Okay. So in our final remarks here, under the religious and cultural laws, we notice that the principal has to maintain awards. If you have won awards, they are reflections of victory to the institution. They have got to be kept in a gallery or a place which is accessible, and even their hygiene. Some people even have in Kumba University, there is a place where you keep the trophies, they keep those awards, and someone is there responsible to make sure they are hygienic, they are not lost, even they are coded, and those awards. Other institutions, the awards are put even on the calendar to show the population that we are victorious. Then memorial places can also be kept in physical or in recorded on records. There are some places where you go if and demolish one like this, one structure like this, which looks funny.
Where I teach, the school was built in 1942 by the British. So they left a wooden structure. You would have I've seen those structures in Kasese, Kirembe mines. It was on a wooden in a municipality. So this thing lived its usefulness that we would repair the wood, it gets rotten because we could not get the original wood. So time came and we had to demolish. But before we demolished, I told the management, let's take a video, make a portrait and display it in the building. So we made a very big portrait of that. So they demolished. But the day they demolished, the community, the old students assembled at the school and everyone saying, "Mwandi Chirese, whoa! This is our people who were there like 6 years ago. You would have left this thing. This is our memorial. But we needed the space. So we showed them that what we had put, we shared the video which we had covered. Then the fire ceased. But they had brought in police, RDC. Hey. But now some of the people on the committee had to stand and tell them, people, it was broken, it was now becoming a dangerous, a hazard to the children, to the community. But now each time people come and see, they say, moreover, we put a storage building. You wouldn't have removed our thing.
Yes.
It's not making 100 years. We broke it in 2019. So when they come and look at people take photos, it should have remained as a museum.
We needed space. The advantage you did was to take a video and a picture of it.
That one, I don't know. God gave me the wisdom.
One tree.
You remember the issue of the police, internal police station, the first police station in Uganda. It was built using the mud and what? The first one, which had even a tower-like thing of the university. When they were planning to construct the current structure now, they had to sit in many meetings, elders, writing to the Queen of England, informing her about the intention. People demonstrated there before they demolished. And I said, if they are breached, that's when you demolish it, that will be the end of the government. It went into a process. The first demolished the other side, and everybody was now seeing that this one is now useless. But it was not easy.
Those are now incidences. So those memorial places, be careful with them. They either maintain them physical or record them.
Yeah.
And put the record out there. Then profiling the school and clarifying, make the profile, the school profile, and explain its foundation. The school profile. Where did the school begin? Who are those? Some of the people who started the school, who have really graduated from the school and have been sounding in the community, and activities of the school in communities. So that is a profile of the school and its foundation. And finally, the principal's adaptive role.
That is adaptive, the principal.
No, we have started on their principal's adaptive role. The principal's adaptive role requires the principal to act as a ladder. Ladder. Not a ladder. That the ladder. No. This ladder is like a tower which detects signals.
That is a radar.
It's a radar. Like the one at the airport. And the country has them across places.
What does it detect?
They detect signals. And if they have, for example, there is a missile in the space, the radar can detect and see there is something in space which you need to give attention. There's an aeroplane coming, the radar gives the signal of whatever is in the space. So now the principal's adaptive role, where the principal acts as a radar and signals as a warning to the senior managers. Signals as a warning to the senior manager. The ladder is almost elevated above the ground to sense signals, then give warning. Anyone struggling with this, the simple thing is detect danger and alert stakeholders. Yes.
Stakeholders.
Mm. There is a school where I went, and those almost everyone in the school was grade 3. I acted as a radar and gave a signal that you people, if you maintain the school in this mode, you either get all new teachers or the school will struggle, because the new teachers policy demands that the teachers have got to upscale. That was a signal. If there is danger that the principal has realized, then the principal acts as a radar, informing the senior managers that if of issues that are not going right, then assist the community in delivering services to the institution. He assists this principal, assists the community in delivering services to the institution, and therefore sets up an open environment where parental involvement is key. So where parental involvement is key, it sets up an environment where parental involvement is key. So members, this is very important, and I would like to close this session here, and I'm leaving you with the task to look for how parents can be involved in any education institution. Which activities can they do within the school, and then strategies of regulating parental pressure.
How can parents be involved in the school activities?
Mm.
It's a question.
Mm.
Involvement of parents in school, in a school.
Mm. Do you remember there is a scenario where the principal allowed parents to get involved in monitoring school activities or teaching activities. So the parent would come to even a class and look at the work that children have done and the methods the teachers used to deliver a lesson. How impactful that was. So here we have what we call helper parents or volunteer parents. So you need to identify the roles of volunteer parents and what activities they can volunteer in. Thank you for coming to the lecture.
Thank you so much, Mr. Ssebuyungo.
Have a nice day.
We are very grateful for this.
Okay.